We're back on the campaign couch. Week 3 is rolling on and it's turning nasty. Guys, is this the dirtiest campaign you've ever seen?
Well, it's certainly shaping up as one of the dirtiest. It's increasingly negative. The Labor Party, I think, realise that they've got nothing to lose and they're just throwing everything they can at Campbell Newman and his family and his wife. Now, a lot of that is directed at the voters of Ashgrove, but it's also directed across the state to sort of mess up the idea that leadership under the LNP is a risk. And I think it'll get a lot dirtier. The LNP, meanwhile, are feeling under pressure and a bit under siege, so they're throwing stuff back.
Yeah, you can see it getting much worse over the next few days, can't you? And you look at some of that material and it is probably a bit worse than what there has been in the recent campaigns, with the involvement of families on each side, particularly Mrs. Newman, Lisa Newman, who's come into it quite a bit. Yeah.
The new anti-Newman pamphlets are doing the rounds. Is there potential that these pamphlets and similar things like it will backfire on the ALP?
There's always a potential that this stuff backfires, especially when you bring the spouse and the family in on it. I remember in 1988 in a New South Wales election, the Labor Party thought it'd be clever to attack Catherine Greiner, the wife of the then opposition leader, Nick Greiner, and it blew up in their face big time. Their vote went into free fall for about a week.
Yeah, and I think in Queensland, while spouses have been with leaders in the past, they've always been pretty much left alone. This is one of the first times, I think, definitely the first time I've seen a spouse used in this way to be so negative attack on them. Now, the LNP has done a fair bit on Anna Bligh's husband, mind you. He's a public servant, so in many ways, because of that situation, they've brought that on themselves. But way back, I think Flo was travelling with Joe, was she? Or I think in some ways, people have related the spouses being with the leaders for that long, but never have they been highlighted in this negative way like this.
Yeah, in election campaigns, it's always been sort of the big button on the wall, do not touch this button, and the Labor Party's gone over and given it a big push. So it is sort of opening up a front, and a lot of people I've been talking to are a bit worried about where it will go.
Yeah, it is a bit of an unknown. I think that's exactly right. But the Labor Party do seem very confident that Lisa Newman isn't popular in the electorate, and they're just using that because they've got nothing else to use.
Yeah, the Labor Party's been doing quite a bit of work on Lisa Newman. I think they even had some focus groups about a week ago where they were sort of testing people's attitudes towards her.
Well, there are increasing calls from voters for our pollies to start talking policy and less bickering. We've had a lot of comments coming through on couriermail.com.au, and keep them coming. A couple from residents in Ashgrove. Bill Grieve said, I received one yesterday talking about the pamphlets. Now they have definitely lost my vote. What a low-down piece of garbage to target one's family. And Mary Wise, also an Ashgrove resident, has said, I was a swinging Ashgrove voter until I received this flyer in my mailbox. Now I'll vote for Newman. Very interesting.
Yeah, and that is the risk, like Dennis said before. That is a risk that people sitting in the middle will not like this attack. Mind you, I think in many ways there could be some silent few who don't like Newman and the interaction with his family's interests and dealings, and in many ways I think Labor has got more to gain out of that than what they have to lose. So I think they're taking that risk in Ashgrove while the fight's on.
The amazing thing is that someone in Ashgrove would call themselves a swinging voter. I reckon if you haven't made up your mind out in Ashgrove by now, you probably never will.
On that note, we'll leave it there. Thanks, gentlemen. We'll see you tomorrow.